This is a disclaimer. This podcast features 4 professional idiots who share their insights and anecdotes. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. This podcast represents the opinions of the guests and should not be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice.
No, I feel like every attorney I know who's happy works for themselves, and that's definitely something I would prefer to do long term.
Okay. The biggest challenge when you're going out on your own is dealing with the administrative business side of things as a solo practitioner. So, yeah.
Got it.
It's not impossible, but running a trust account and, making sure you don't bounce that is something that's important because that gets you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's the one place where they warned us in professional responsibility is don't fuck around with money. Don't fuck your clients and don't fuck with your clients' money. Do that and you keep your bar card. Yep. And apparently procrastination, literally just not filing things timely, is like one of the number one things that people get bar complaints over.
Untimeliness and non-responsiveness. So, yeah, I like to call my clients back and answer their questions, the same ones that they asked the last time, every single time. So,
always fun.
Just a rephrasing of the same question.
No. That would no. Mm-mm.
That would
just
at least
the same
make
fucking
sense.
Question. Yeah. Yeah, you just you asked that question already. This is the third time we've had this conversation. I'm charging by the hour, right? Anyways.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't realize. All right.
Well, they know.
Well, the life of a lawyer comes with a lot of lows and a lot of highs. Speaking of highs.
You save that for the episode. All right.
Hey, are you not recording already? I thought you were recording already.
We are. You're
okay. Good.
That'll actually be the. I wanted to throw in a funny to lead into the thing, and then you hear the music.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right. You just want to get into it? Yeah, let's just get going because I got a fair amount I could talk about. I was doing the research into it, and so I have a bunch of articles that are like, here's from Harvard Med, here's from the NCBI, and then here's from JWU, but pretty official websites. And then if you look at anything that isn't official, it's like, we just makes you feel good, man. We're just here for a good time.
It's just a natural plant, man. It couldn't do anything to you.
And
it's not like half of the plant world is ready to poison you to within an inch of your life at any given time. There's no naturalistic fallacy. What are you talking about? So weed. Dan, what's your relationship with weed?
I will talk about it when I'm ready to talk about it.
All right.
Give me a second.
Breathe deep. Inhale.
Shut up.
Never.
Welcome back, everyone, to Overqualified Idiots. I'm Dan Casey, MD. If it's your first time tuning in, this is a podcast where 4 professionals or professionals from different fields come together to share their stories, talk about a given topic, teach you something, and hopefully make you laugh. I am joined by my brother, Patrick Casey. JD.
Hello there.
Is there a delay again? Damn it. That was like 3 seconds.
Nope, I paused. I always do the pregnant pause. They make you think I'm just not going to say anything at all. No.
I just think the recording's off. All right.
He just wants to build that tension. And then when he finally says it, you're like, oh, thank God he can hear me.
Hello there.
Good. Mm-hmm. And as you've heard, we have Alex K. Also,
well,
howdy.
So, how you guys doing? I figured I'd roll right into small talk. I have a lot to talk about this episode, but I wanted to see what's going on with you guys. Pat, what's new with you? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 days ago, I guess. My brother's coming to visit me in less than a month. That's cool.
Yeah. That's me. I am his brother.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that he's the brother that's coming to visit. I don't know. There's not been a lot that's new. just same-o, same-o. I mean, I found a new restaurant that I'm definitely going to have you go try with us, a barbecue place that's in St. Peter, Minnesota. So that's where I just came back from, and why I'm picking at my teeth with one of these handy-dandy tools that, help floss.
A flosser stick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just got a comment. There is nothing in Mankato at all, or St. James for that matter. We were Googling on like TripAdvisor and all the things, and I swear to God, I don't remember if it was for Mankato or for St. James, but the Waffle House came up as an attraction to see. And
we don't have a Waffle House.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Maybe it's St. James.
That was probably sponsored in advertisement.
Oh, I swear to God. One of the things here, okay, I'm not making this up. I swear to God. Hold on. St. James, Minnesota, TripAdvisor.
Oh, Pat's recording just went to a dark screen.
Pat, you live? Oh no, you died. The Waffle House get him?
Yep.
TripAdvisor, best places to visit. Nothing. Nothing comes up for St. James. The 10 best restaurants in St. James. All right. Oh, there it is. Okay, so best restaurants to visit. And number 3 is Pizza Hut.
Am I back now? Can you hear me?
Are you alive? All right, let's do Mankato.
I'm alive.
TripAdvisor, Mankato.
It's TripAdvisor, though. I mean, that's only, useful in large population centers. Mankato's small. I mean, it's a relatively small city.
So Mankato's just one of those things where all of the recommendations are just hotels, because it's you stop on your way getting to where you're actually trying to go. Well, we will be staying in Airbnb, not the Waffle House. In St. James,
probably a good idea.
The third best ranked restaurant, you missed this, the third best ranked restaurant is Pizza Hut.
All right, continue with ripping on Mankato as not having anything on TripAdvisor to do. Because I know all the good restaurants in town, so fuck off, TripAdvisor.
Is it Pizza Hut?
I do not want you as a sponsor. Pizza Hut's definitely not it.
All right, Alex, how you doing, man? What's new with you?
I'm doing all right. Not a whole lot new with me. Just, as usual, perpetually job hunting to escape hell. But, it's fine.
Fair enough. I'm going to go visit my brother in a month, and apparently I'm going to go check out Pizza Hut. So, I figure we get right into the meat. Of the episode. Lots of lows with traveling, lots of highs with traveling. I think you said this earlier.
Mm-hmm,
We're going to talk about Super High Me. And no, I'm just kidding. Oh, who's that comedian who does Super High Me? Because I actually saw him. Doug Benson. Basically, I'm going to lead into this with a little bit of his stand-up. He talks about, so he did Super High Me, and his is a playoff of Super Size Me, the movie that was done where the guy ate McDonald's for every meal every day for 40 days. Super High Me, Doug Benson smoked weed every day for 40 days. And basically he was fine. He went to his doctor, and his doctor you probably shouldn't do that, but there were no real negative consequences. And his whole stand-up bit, he talks about how there are studies, marijuana, that talk about how they help long-term, memory, help stave off Alzheimer's. And so his whole little, bit was this tagline, the slogan for marijuana should be, why forget tomorrow what you can forget today? And so... So, ultimately, I wanted to talk about the health benefits, downsides of weed. I wanted to talk about some of the legal issues, talk about some of the basically hot topics surrounding weed. We were talking about having a weed episode, the legal quagmire, the tax benefits, the economic prosperity that apparently Colorado's experiencing, what have you. And, should we legalize it? I feel like we're going to have a pretty unanimous answer on that. But ultimately, did you guys want to start off? I can save what I feel like I have too much to talk about. So I want one of you to lead in, and we can always talk about health benefits and negatives, downsides at any point.
Well, I feel like the starting place is just the legalization wave that has been going through. Even it was a thing a little while ago as well, but it's even now. This past year, a few new states added marijuana legalization, recreational use for. It's generally people over the age of 21 in most states that have been doing it.
Yay, Minnesota. Yay, congratulations.
Yep, Minnesota did it. Maryland did it. I think at least one other state did it in 2023.
Well, interestingly, South Dakota did it, and then they didn't do it. The people voted for it, but then, it's
the state legislature just said no?
I think it was actually the governor or the attorney general. I can't recall how that played out. I can look that up. But
did you hear what happened in Washington, D.C.? Similar kind of thing?
No, what happened?
Washington, D.C. had a vote, legalized it. Their city council legalized it. Everybody was in agreement. And then the federal Congress stepped in because all laws are subject to their approval within the district. And they came in and said, actually, no, we don't think this is okay. And basically the entire district has basically been, well, we know what you said, and technically it's not, but like, fuck you. And there are dispensaries everywhere that operate as gifting operations now. You cannot buy marijuana. You can, however, make a charitable donation to a different thing and then receive marijuana as a gift.
What the hell?
I was wrong. South Dakota passed medical in 2020, and then recreational failed on a vote on the popular side.
Yeah, so I think medicinal marijuana is literally only illegal in like 3 or 4 states. Wyoming, Kansas, Nebraska, North Carolina. So really, from a medicinal standpoint, South Carolina, basically, vast majority of states are on board. Recreational is still fairly mixed. But yeah, as far as the wave, I mean, when did Denver even pass decriminalization? When was weed legalized in Denver? Because if I'm not wrong, Colorado was the first state to do it, correct? 2012, recreational legalization.
One of the first.
I thought that recreational was like the Washington, Oregon, and Colorado were all at about the same time.
Or it was Oregon.
Yeah,
it was Oregon first.
Okay.
So what are some conflicts? I guess so we'll talk like pros, cons of the legalization of marijuana and why some states are still holding out.
So I think the perspective I would take is the cons of the method that we've used. Having it be a state level legalization process rather than a federal level rescheduling or legalization process has led to like a lot of huge problems in the entire industry overall. So first thing, marijuana is still federally illegal. And if a new president came in tomorrow who really had it in their head that like, you know what, fuck marijuana, suddenly we could have massive enforcement action everywhere, basically. It's literally just a matter of because the federal government has decided not to step in, that's the only reason that any of this has been allowed to happen so far.
So given that it's been so long now, we're talking at least over a decade since Colorado, we're talking more years of that since Oregon, I think it's the first. Is that like legal precedent that the federal government shouldn't act on it? Or is it really just that people are going to do whatever they want?
It's not anything binding. It would be persuasive that, hey, the federal government has basically, like, through inaction made some kind of a overture that maybe this is something that they are conceding to the states as their thing. That's a really weak argument, though, because there's no specific statute stating who it's delegated to. And there's federal statutes, and normally the Constitution says that federal law is the supreme law of the land. And so normally that would come in and crush everything else and just say, nope, fuck you. Federal is the only thing that matters.
It's interesting that a more conservative president hasn't sought that his attorney general make legal challenges to each of these states, essentially suing them all and saying that the federal government has what they call occupied the field of, meaning they have a broad sweeping federal statute that governs what's illegal and what's legal controlled substances. And so to enforce Alex's point and just kind of use the buzzwords, the legal terms, the federal government's already passed this, dealt with this, and is the supreme law of the land. And all you states, guess what? You can't do this anymore. I don't know how much traction they would have. I see it more of like the laws that are still on the books in some states that forbid oral copulation. Those are not enforced anymore. It's kind of more moving in that kind of a direction of, sodomy and oral copulation laws that aren't enforced. So
I was going to say, those things still
however.
exist. I think in our, we had an episode of like, that's still a thing, or at some point we talked about how there's like laws that like are on the books, but no one does anything about them.
Right now, that's where the federal law is it relates to marijuana for the most part, unless you're talking about large quantities coming to
Trafficking.
and fro that are part of other more insidious types of drugs as well. I mean, right now, the federal government and state governments are dealing more with fentanyl. Weed is not, on the top of the priority list. Fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, and marijuana is really not on the radar when you're having to deal with all of the trafficking and death and destruction of those types of drugs.
Hey, the medical community is partly responsible for that. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. Alex, say what you're going to say.
Another aspect of this from like the federal perspective is that while the feds haven't come in to cause problems, their lack of action is itself a huge problem in this industry. Yeah, so because of the existing laws around banking, almost every marijuana business in the entire country is a all cash business. They can't have banking. They literally are just not allowed to have normal banking.
It's not 100% accurate statement, and I'm going to challenge you on it.
Okay, valid.
I'm going to push back on you, Alex. I'm sorry.
They can't have certain kinds of regular banking that people are used to. They can't have
FDIC insured institutions are prohibited from lending money. So he's right.
What percentage of those institutions are FDIC insured? It's almost all of them.
Most, but you still have, you still do have credit unions that do exist in some places. Probably not Arizona anymore, but we're not going to talk about that. You guys weren't alive for the whole as scam, debacle in the late 80s. But yeah, I mean, they can get money from lending institutions, but like you said, most of them are FDIC insured, and Alex is 100% right. It's impossible to open this business as like a normal human wanting to like our brother Sean, who would love to open his own marijuana establishment, but he couldn't get the funding. He would obviously need a small business loan that his bank couldn't allow him to get.
Which makes the space really complicated because you have a lot of people who are wealthy or organizations that are wealthy in other areas that are now coming in with all of that venture capital money. But then you have low-level people can't start a small business, basically. So it is basically fast-tracked the entire industry towards being monopolized by like a handful of growers, producers, manufacturers, sellers. And there are new people trying to enter. Every time there's a new market, they try to start up and they just keep getting crushed because there are pretty punitive licensing regimes. And in order to get one of those licenses, usually you need lawyers and a shit ton of money. And sometimes, like in Arizona, I had a friend who works in this industry there, and he helped people to get licenses. Those licenses for being able to sell marijuana in the state were going for as much as like tens of millions of dollars. Or over $100 million in some places. So like a company would come up to someone who had won a license through any number of means, sometimes because they'll set aside licenses for equity for people who've been historically harmed or communities that have been historically harmed by marijuana policy. And then those licenses just get bought up, and then big businesses take all the licenses and then just own the entire industry. It just keeps happening slowly but surely in every state that legalizes.
So what ends up being the fallout in terms of what happens if WeedCo takes over and is the sole provider and sole producer of recreational or even, I'm sure there's probably different regulations for medicinal marijuana. So I'll ask it in the setting of just recreational marijuana.
So some common issues that we've been seeing for a while is that you have price goes way up. So, I mean, a lot of people complain about this, but compared to when it was illegal, the price is actually higher per unit for a lot of things than it used to be. For some things, it's not. For some things, it is. The other aspect of it is that quality control it pretends like it's improved substantially, but really it hasn't in a lot of ways. So a lot of these companies will rely on like, oh, I got an approval from this laboratory that says my weed is this percentage and it's this amount. And they have every way of futzing with that system. So a common one you buy a thing of edibles, let's say, little baggie of them. It says on the package that this is 500 milligrams total within that package. How do you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is the problem with like supplements in the medical industry.
Mm-hmm.
Your nature made or what have you.
Of them, I promise you'll find out how that works.
It's true.
Yeah,
all of them. You'll find
it. Yeah.
There's review sites now. There are people who test different ones themselves or like eat things. And so like basically word of mouth is becoming the way that people are finding these things out. But there are a lot that have really scammy business practices. So like what some will do is they'll spray their marijuana edibles with a distillate. And then if you swab test that compound, if you swab test those edibles, it'll come out that, oh, the amount in this must be very, very high. But the amount on the surface is really high, but there's none inside of the edible. And so the relative measurements that they're getting are completely wrong.
God, that's so shady. There's so many ways around this. Okay.
It's almost like federal regulation, and there's a reason that an FDA exists to test things and to enforce policies on testing stuff. And it's like we're learning the lessons of not having those systems all over again, one state at a time.
I haven't had that problem in anything that I've purchased legally at this point. So
I like the clarification.
Thank you. No, I mean, I have obtained all of my marijuana products legally. I've never not. So
would never.
So basically, if you don't have your own mass spectrometer to measure the actual contents of every compound and element in your food and your edibles, you personally don't have a way to verify exactly what the hell is in what you're eating, which is the entire responsibility of the FDA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is like where supplements that like aren't FDA regulated and fall outside of the boundaries of that governing body is that you don't have no idea if they say your magnesium or your vitamin D is the levels that they say they are outside of basically when they do get randomly tested. There are organizations that go and randomly test widely purchased things and that are essentially like watchdog type companies to verify that, hey, these people actually have what they're saying or it's close.
They need to test some of these freaking so-called energy drinks like Prime and whatever for what's in those things. Cause I got to tell you, some of those things make me afraid that my heart's going to explode out of my chest if I consumed it. Cause I don't trust what's actually on the label, so to speak, for some of those products. But as far as marijuana, I mean, I think that to more to Alex's point, the federal government isn't doing it because for the last 120 years, people have been led to believe that this stuff is horrible and, burns out your synapses, prevents you from thinking, makes you crazy or commit crimes, or it's a gateway drug. I guess
if you believe reefer madness, you'll blow your brains out with a shotgun.
Right. And I just remember, I can't remember which comedian talked about it, but it's more likely to make you, into an engineer because you just turn into random household items, or MacGyver into a bong. I turned an apple into a bong, that kind of a thing. I remember those conversations, and I don't know. It just defies logic that we've got this multi-trillion-dollar, business of pharmaceuticals that are pushing back against it. Pharmaceutical companies are the biggest reason right now why this isn't legalized federally, because if it was, the issues you're talking about, Alex, wouldn't be as prevalent, certainly, in number one. And number two, in some respects, I think they'd be completely out of business, because a lot of marijuana can take away some of the pain and anxiety, address depression. There's a number of treatments.
I can talk about that.
I'm going to lead that up to Daniel to talk to that more specifically. But yeah.
So I guess that's a good segue to talking about like the health benefits. So if you
built that all the fuck up for you. Obviously, it was a segue.
Yes, thank you.
You can only lead a horse to water. I'm sorry, Patrick. He just keeps missing it. I don't know how.
As Grandpa used to say, you can't fill your fountain pen, but bumps.
Oh, God.
Who has a fountain pen?
I was going to say, I haven't heard that in years.
I know.
So, what are the health benefits of marijuana? There are many. They can lower your blood pressure. Pat brought up, they can lower anxiety. They can make our anxiety worse in certain people. That's actually true. So when people are like, oh, I can't do it, it makes me freak out, those people shouldn't do it. Reducing it, widespread inflammation, so it can help with chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia. I used to be the kind of person who thought fibromyalgia was fake and made up. Turns out it's really just a very like somatic form of depression, where depression is not just an imbalance of the neurotransmitters in your brain. That is part of it, but that may be more of a symptom of the problem. But it does have a widespread inflammatory component. So people who are depressed, have severe anxiety, have severe psychiatric conditions, tend to also have things like pain syndromes, inflammatory conditions, etc. And vice versa. People with a lot of rheumatologic conditions end up developing psychiatric problems, because if you're in pain all the time, it messes with how you think. So
that would make sense.
The widespread benefit of reducing inflammation has these sort of nebulous benefits to our health overall, and in a lot of these chronic conditions. So I've seen it used in terms of like preventing. You brought up gateway drug. It's definitely been used as a means of preventing relapse into harder drugs. So I would try to put that negative spin in a positive context, that it has been used as like a de-escalating agent for a lot of chronic drug use, and it has a lot of benefit there. But ultimately, the big thing is pain. Cancer pain, chronic pain. I treat arthritis every single day. There's never been a single day of my job that I did not have a arthritis patient in my office. It's the single biggest cause of like healthcare costs in our country right now. Maybe more so than I think cardiovascular disease. I'm not actually confident in that now. But ultimately, it helps to treat cancer pain, chronic pain, and it works. It works incredibly well. It works better than a lot of essentially like the chronic narcotics and opioids that we throw at pain conditions. Now, mind you, if you have end stage cancer or a life limiting illness, that is the one instance in where like limitless opioids and narcotics are like totally fair game and totally reasonable. But CBD also doesn't really have like a true ceiling. You can't overdose per se. You can lose your mind and be incapacitated, but you're not going to stop breathing like you will with narcotics.
CBD is not the psychoactive part of
you're
stuff
right.
anyway. But
so CBD, and this is a point of clarification. I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually minced terms there. CBD, it refers to cannabinoids. People bring up cannabinoids in the context of like it helps with the pain, it helps with the regulation. And it may not always take pain away. It just changes how your body perceives it. So that way your pain may still be there, but it may not bother you in the same way it does, like off treatment. So whereas opioids just make your body ignore it and then really drive up your reward system, so that people don't realize that opioids actually touch into the part of your brain that make you experience pleasure and reward and enjoyment. So that's why narcotics are so addictive, is because they tap directly into that part of your brain.
So quick clarification, CBD is more specifically cannabidiol, and the cannabinoids are a broader set of chemicals that includes THC as well.
Oh, well, I didn't know the particulars on that. THC is the hallucinogen too. So that's the part of it, is when I have to explain to a lot of my patients who come in asking about it, and they're like, oh, so in Sun City, in God's waiting room, there are dispensaries every corner, and there are CBD clinics, there are marijuana. They're not even shy about it with how they advertise it. They got like a little cartoon character smoking a doobie. And so the questions I get a lot is that patients come in, they're like, oh, I don't want to get high. And I'm like, that's fine. The CBD creams don't have like THC in them. You can use them. They're fine. They're safe. You can use the oral versions. You can use the topicals if you're scared. They all help. And so I have come around to where I don't necessarily have a problem with it in any way or any context, as long as if it has THC, I warn people, you can worsen anxiety. You could have a panic attack. That is entirely within the realm of possibility. And then if you do, you shouldn't do it. But yeah, chronic pain, GI issues, lowering blood pressure, reducing inflammation, using it as a tool to prevent relapse in drug and alcohol addiction. Like, these are all widespread uses, and the therapeutic benefits aren't limited to that. Seizure conditions, multiple sclerosis, neurologic regulation. We don't really understand a lot of the whys or the hows, but it helps, and the downsides are very, very minimal. So that's why I look at Nebraska and I look at the Carolinas, who still have medicinal marijuana illegal, and I'm just scratching my head here, like, well, why? Pat answered that question.
What'd I do?
So you've answered why is it still illegal? And it's probably most likely the competition, which is the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, they've got huge wallets that they dump their money on politicians so that they don't even get the bills to go to the floor.
Although
so now,
some people, so it's over at the Department of Health and Human Services and FDA have actually recommended rescheduling of marijuana to the DEA.
Well, yeah.
And the DEA, this just happened. This just happened in the last month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then the DEA has officially stated that they have final say on this, which is, I think, technically accurate according to the statute stuff, but I'm not super familiar. They could just be saying bullshit. You never know.
They're just saying it because they're swinging their big, fucking
financial and legal dicks around.
The DEA is just, swinging around their nightstick and saying, fuck you guys don't have the final say.
Any law enforcement group tends to be very defensive of their jurisdiction of that
just
stuff.
They want to limit their, law enforcement agencies are upset about this because it limits their ability to search somebody's motor vehicle.
Yep.
It makes it more challenging to do. Just the mere situs of something like that is going to be insufficient. Now, I can tell you how many times I've heard, in a police report, or I smell marijuana, and they don't ever find weed.
Yep.
They just don't find it. I mean, so it could be psychosomatic, I guess, or the cops could just be lying. I mean, they do get paid to lie for a living, but
it's a hell of a statement.
It's not untrue.
I know it's true, but I just love it.
That's why the cops are so opposed to it, because it doesn't allow them to automatically search your car. Yeah, it's what it comes down to. Is they've got it limits their authority. Anyways, go ahead, Dan.
I didn't believe this when I had first read it. In Arizona right now, if a cop says he can smell weed, he can legally search your car. Mm-hmm. And so that is something that blew my mind, because if somebody's acting drunk, if somebody smells of liquor or booze, that's one of the things where, okay, I can see that. You have ways to test that with sobriety tests and with breathalyzers. There is no weed breathalyzer, so just the good old sniff test is apparently enough, and that gives them right to search your entire car in person.
It does, unfortunately, but there still are those. You bring up a good point and make a good parallel, because there are drug sobriety tests. Certainly, obviously, you can't take a PBT or here blowing this straw and we'll find out how much weed. At least not yet. I hear there's research actually in the works to try to determine if they can from a breath test determine whether or not you've had an intoxicant in your system. I don't know that's even close to the point at which it could be utilized for probable cause purposes. But man,
also heard they've got their tests and stuff.
Yeah, there are sweat tests.
Swabs. Yeah, those things are more probationary right now and preliminary than they are evidentiary or probable cause related. But yeah, I mean, if they believe you're under the influence, period, pinpoint pupils, slowed reaction speech, bloodshot, red bloodshot, watery eyes, is still going to be, trying to get a warrant for a blood test for you.
Well, that just sounds like me after my newborn period. I was like, those aren't just isolated things too, but I guess everybody knows what the compilation of those symptoms mean. So you said multiple things, and I had so many thoughts all at once. I want to bring it to the parallel of alcohol and weed, because that's obviously the big thing, right? Alcohol is legal in our country. There was a whole prohibition phase and era and obscene amounts of crime, and people and politicians and people in high positions of power always, it was like a sign of status to have alcohol. Now with weed, it's more along the lines of everybody's okay with it, or at least a vast majority are. So why are we still having these problems? Why not legalize it, tax it like tobacco, and enforce it like marijuana, or enforce it like alcohol with DUIs, etc. With those limitations in terms of not being able to accurately measure if somebody is high or how high they are, do you think...
No, it's high. How are you, Dan? So that's how you...
Anyways,
keep going. Sorry.
That's good. I'm really having a hard time phrasing this question. Come on, man. I'm not high right now. I'm just tired.
No, there's accurate ways to measure the amount of THC in someone's system, but I think you're leading into the question of does that level that exists at that point, does it have an impact on someone's ability to drive? And that's a very fact-driven analysis. So
yes.
Well, and also, is the level indicative of present intoxication, or is it the kind of thing? Because so many of those tests have been designed to catch people who smoked 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of the tests for now is, did you smoke anytime in the last 3 to 4 weeks?
So this is cool, right? Weed stays in your system proportional to the amount of body fat you have. Yes, obviously there's a dose dependent amount to like how often you smoke. If you're a daily smoker, if you have a high percentage of body fat, then weed will be able to be detected in your system for as much as like months out. Now, for the average person, it's somewhere between 10 and 14 days. If you're like a intermittent user, if you have essentially a normal BMI, you could have it out of your system within 2-3 weeks. And that's what those tests are trying to catch for, I don't know, employment, what have you. Mm-hmm. So finding an accurate test of how much affects somebody's ability to drive, is somebody a regular user and can function normal, quote unquote, normally? How do you make those factor-driven arguments when you don't have something like alcohol, which is a like 1-to-1? Basically, your liver processes the same amount of alcohol, and we have a number that we say, okay, this is where you're incapacitated.
Yeah, it's a good question. Juries decide those questions about whether that person was impaired or not. Just by virtue of THC being in someone's system is not going to be like a bright line at the time they were operating. It's whether that drug affected their ability to operate that motor vehicle.
Well, and a lot of the tests are also testing for metabolites of THC, not for THC itself. So there might not be any active compound that actually is affecting you. It's just you had some a while ago and it's processed out, and now little pieces of it are left in you for a long time that we can find. That doesn't mean that you are directly exposed right now.
So then a test for THC explicitly and a test for the amount in you that is non-invasive, that is non-demanding. Because like taking a blood test, for example, that's very invasive. That is with risk. A blood draw is not without risk. I want to state that and throw that out there because people be like, it's just a prick, a little poke. Like, no, that's an infection risk. You don't know what somebody's health is. You don't know what you're stabbing. So ultimately, even the sweat test, if you have to get somebody moving, if you had to get somebody sweating in order to test them, that's like a violation of their person in some sense, right?
Well, so here, let me lay out the kind of the constitutional case law and how FUBAR is. As it relates to blood and urine, you're 100% accurate. You're going to need a warrant to get that. Those are the more accurate tests, obviously, when it comes to alcohol and as well as intoxicants in your system. And I would suggest that's what they got to do is they got to get a warrant. They don't get the warrant. They don't provide the PC for the warrant based on their observations, then it would be a violation and the evidence would be suppressed.
So I think that is jurisdiction dependent, actually, because I remember there's a case in Arizona where they actually not that long ago decided that it turns out you can take a blood test without a warrant. If the person, it's under certain circumstances, but you don't need a warrant for it in some cases there.
In exigent circumstances, but those are very more narrowly defined under U.S. constitutional law than they were, say, 5 years ago. And so, yes, if someone dies as a result of it and the blood of the defendant is unconscious, then there may be exigent circumstances on, all of those things happens, then yeah, there may be some exigency there. But in most basic circumstances where marijuana would be why you're getting pulled over for a DWI, yeah, the fatal car accidents aren't typically caused by marijuana users. They're typically caused by blackout drunks in my experience. But, I could be terribly wrong.
People should smoke and drive, but
no. I'm not endorsing getting high and driving. Let's be very clear. If that requires a disclaimer before the video, then you're just fucking stupid. But no, there are very narrow circumstances in which those things, as far as like sweat and breath, the Supremes and at least my state look at that differently because it's something you're actually exhaling. It's something that's being excreted from your body. So potentially the acquisition of sweat, which would not be invasive if you were actively sweating,
perspiring,
whatever. That probably would be okay if they could, because it's not an intrusive test. You're not having to go inside somebody's body to get it or requiring them to expel something that they don't want to, so to speak.
Fair enough. I guess that's why breathalyzers are legal, right? So the weed breathalyzer is what people are looking into. Sweat test is something that's possible, but you brought up a good point that it's mostly metabolites, not necessarily THC, right?
Right. It's what they're looking for. And Alex's point is right on point with that. That's used more in the context of probation violations, where they put sweat patches and they're looking for, 5-panel information, and then they send the sweat patch in to get confirmation if they get the initial test result from a urine test. Is they'll send the sweat patch for the real confirmation and the hardcore confirmation. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I know it not really, to be fair, but it's part of my practice. So yeah, I know a little bit about it.
I find it interesting. I'm also a nerd.
So, I hope that our listeners do too. But I mean, for me, I'm like, yeah, I guess it's interesting, kind of.
So let's bring it back to like federal versus state, right? Because we've talked about a lot of the pros. The cons tend to be more regulatory than anything else, and kind of competition. So should the federal government just say weed is legal, and what are implications of for and against?
Do you want me to argue against it, Alex?
I mean,
yes, two lawyers fight.
All right, so
go kill each other.
So I think that from a federal and state law enforcement perspective, does limit their ability to enforce drug interdiction laws, because marijuana does have such a pungent odor. It is easily identifiable and does lead law enforcement to larger busts, so to speak, because of the smell associated with that drug. Whereas the more serious drugs, is the way I'm putting it, not the way they would put it maybe, but the more serious drugs don't have that identifiable odor unless somebody's, using their car as a mobile meth lab, and then that would be a different story. But
somebody's Breaking Bad and Mankato.
Somebody's Breaking Bad in their Pinto. I don't know. So, but that would be the one from the FBI,
law enforcement perspective.
Perspective. I think that you're going to find significant pushback against the legislation, and I can't really argue it from a health standpoint with a straight face, but from a law enforcement perspective, I certainly can, because I understand their perspective and where they're coming from. Whether I agree with it or not is totally different. Let's separate that. Let's make sure we understand that. I don't agree with that perspective. However, I do understand and appreciate where they're coming from, because I do want them to catch people that are pushing fentanyl, methamphetamine, heroin. I don't want that. I don't want young people dying in our communities. But on the same flip side, the benefits of using marijuana, I would suggest, at least in my experience, especially now being a diabetic, are far outweigh anything else, because I can use something that relaxes me, that doesn't physically harm me as a diabetic, because drinking a beer is terrible for my blood sugars. Just one. It doesn't take multiple. It just takes one. Whereas if I smoke from a vape pen, for example, not that I ever do that on the weekends, but let's say hypothetically, that doesn't have the physical implications. I don't wake up feeling foggy or my memory being affected. I don't wake up feeling like crap, like somebody hit me with a bus. There's no hangover. I don't have a hangover.
You just might be hungry.
I mean, no. I mean, when I use it, I might be hungry. The next day, that doesn't have that effect. But as long as I limit myself to eating, fatty proteins, I'm okay, as opposed to imbibing cookies or ice cream. But even eating cookies and ice cream, it's not as bad as alcohol. So
all right, Alex. So we heard what was supposed to be the cons and some pros. Let's go ahead and hear the pros from Alex.
So I think my perspective on this is that this is interstate commerce. It's the federal government's job to regulate interstate commerce. Weed is already being transported by the truckload from states to other states right now. And the regulation that's in place around that is patchwork. It's different in every state what you're required to have or test for or do. Whether or not like, oh, can I test here and then transfer here and then have that still be good? There's no reciprocity necessarily. It all becomes incredibly complicated. Some states have agreements between each other. Some don't. It's basically, we've got a patchwork system that's incredibly convoluted because every single state has different laws and regulations around it. They're all trying to do this for the very first time. And so it is kind of that like classic thing that people talk about of the states are the laboratory of democracy when it comes to this stuff. They are all just running tests on us. But their thing is that there are some things that we can say pretty definitively are bad stuff when it's being done at just a state level. It's like the lack of federal testing policy, the lack of policies on transport of those goods, the smell stuff, even. Like a lot of these are things that we could deal with on a federal level of like, what are the rules for a lot of this stuff? So there's a lot of like nuisance complaints now that are coming out about marijuana smell in places that have legalized. Someone's smoking next door and it keeps leaking into your house. What are your rights against that person?
Oh God, yeah, that's my neighbor. What are my rights? Alex, tell me.
It depends on your state. 100% depends on your state. And it probably always will depend on your state. A lot of tort law is state.
Yeah, check your state statute. It's what every good professor says to the students every single time they tell you a rule. So yeah,
depends on your jurisdiction. That's what I always heard. But yeah, no. And so a lot of the common law stuff on it is that in theory you might, depending on what it is, but it's your jurisdiction.
Got it.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, so on like the banking side of things, currently there's probably, I mean, we can't say definitively one way or the other, but there's probably massive federal tax fraud going on all the time with this stuff. I can't blame them. The feds aren't protecting them. Why would you pay federal income tax on it? It's also illegal. So like, but the funny thing is there's a line on your taxes that lets you pay for illegal substances, and people have been using that for this. Because they have to declare the taxes somehow. They have to declare these things. That would actually get you gone after if you didn't declare it on your tax reports.
That's definitely a federal statute that they're going to go after you on, is if you don't pay your weed taxes. So yeah, Alex is 100% right.
But yeah, because it's an all cash business, it's so much harder for the IRS to track down how much money is actually going into this. People are paying things. So many different things are being paid for in cash in relation to this business. It's not just the direct sales. It's all the people around it who are paid in cash because the business itself is all cash. And so it's just billions of dollars that are being spent that there's no provenance for. We can't track it. We don't know where it's going. We don't know what money, like we can't track each dollar and who it went to along the way.
Don't we have like a $32 trillion debt right now? I mean, imagine how much lost revenue based on a very minor number. You know, I had a lawyer always say that a small percentage of a large number is still a really large number.
Yep.
I mean, I bet you if they legalized it, taxed it at a certain rate, that we could take care of our national debt. But I mean, they'd actually just spend all the extra money. They wouldn't pay down the debt because, I mean, God forbid that they don't act like, you know, every other American home in the country, right? So.
Oh, man. Never mind. I was going to say something. Well, in the debate, in the battle to the death between the lawyers, I think Alex won because Pat started talking about the pros of weed legalization anyways.
It makes it real easy when you have the facts on your side. When the facts and the law are kind of on your side, it helps.
I do appreciate, I always find it admirable when somebody takes the con side of something that is very clearly a difficult and uphill argument. So I appreciate you doing that, Pat. I feel like I should also do that to some degree because I talked about the pros of marijuana and health and I didn't talk about any of the negatives, and there are negatives. So call it disclaimer, call it fair time. I don't care. If you brought up the vape pen, Pat, if you smoke, it is all the same detriments to your lung and respiratory health that smoking tobacco is, maybe not volume wise. People actually quote studies where they say that people who smoke marijuana actually increase their lung capacity. And that is true. That is 100% true. For the first 5 years, your lung capacity will actually increase. It's because people take bong rips. If you sit there multiple times a day take in as big a gulp of air as you physically can manage, yes, your lung capacity will go up. And then over 5 to 10 years, you will destroy your alveoli and your lung architecture with, irritants and inflammation and progress to COPD the same as everybody else. So enjoy your gummies, Pat. But I'm careful about the vape pen.
I much prefer chocolate. Chocolate edibles.
Aw.
I mean, yep.
You say that. It sounds good. Anyways.
There's a place right up the road from me that sells these like s'mores flavored chocolates that have a little baghead guy on them that are very, very potent and quite nice. They're delicious. You have to be very careful not to accidentally
take just one.
It's so tasty. One more won't hurt.
No, it will. It will. You'll be staring at the wall, drooling on yourself.
And then you're talking to the hat man. Marijuana does increase heart rate. That's just factual. That's just a normal physiologic response. So if you do have a heart condition, you probably got to be extremely careful. There's no dose amount that correlates with that. So
part of why some people get panicky about it is that they can feel their heart
you can feel your palpitations. Yes. So if it relaxes you, great, but your heart rate will still go up. There's cyclic vomiting syndrome, which is actually GI disruption. To my knowledge, we don't fully understand why this happens, but people who imbibe multiple times a day, every day for long periods of time, can eventually disrupt their gut enough to where they actually can't keep food down, water down, much of anything. Maybe some light water and small, easy to digest things. But this is well documented and well understood that cyclic vomiting syndrome. I actually had a close friend. I'm not going to say his name, but he lost about 120 pounds over the course of, actually it was 80 pounds, over the course of like 6 weeks because he couldn't keep anything beyond a protein shake down once or twice a day.
80 pounds in 6 weeks?
That sounds like
something crazy.
Crash diet.
Do not recommend. But no, he lost an absurd. It was either, I said 120. I think that's obviously wrong.
Yeah, folks, that's not a healthy way to lose weight. I'm joking.
Have I got
another lawyer disclaimer? Another fucking lawyer
disclaimer. Isn't it
disclaimer.
like 2 pounds every 2 to 4 weeks is like
a
healthy level of weight loss?
1 to 2 pounds a week is considered normal healthy weight loss. Okay. Those who are exceptionally heavy, who have a very high BMI, can and often do lose more weight than that once they start trying. Yep. And that is acceptable just because you're starting so far above the metrics. But for an everyday person, you're overweight, you're trying to lose weight, 1 to 2 pounds a week is totally normal and acceptable. In fact, you really shouldn't check your weight more than once a week.
Yeah, if you're checking your weight more than once a week, you're just defeating yourself
you're just affecting your own psyche.
Yeah, because one day the next you can be 1.5 pounds off due to what's in your bladder or in your GI tract. I mean,
that 2 pound turd. Yeah, that's what's setting you back that day. You don't need to.
The 2 pound turd.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I said. Thanks, Dan.
And this is an important one. This is the one where people have to actually be careful because we all know about the harms of alcohol in pregnancy. We don't know the harms of marijuana in pregnancy. We do not know. Is it less harmful? I don't know. Is it more harmful? I still don't fucking know. We don't have those long-term studies.
Yeah, please don't smoke or use while you're pregnant.
We're not going to have them for an extended, probably very long period of time because guess what?
DHS is still going to take your baby if they test positive for THC when they're born. I promise you. Doesn't matter what state it is.
Correct.
So it's not. So yes, I firmly believe that smoking anything during pregnancy is bad and could be very harmful to a child. So yeah.
That is something else that I wish would change in the industry is the packaging rules. There's way too much of it that's way too colorful and looks way too much like regular candy. They need to.
We know what they're marketing for and trying to do.
Yes,
dude, the Skittles, like the THC Skittles, they're identical to the Skittles, like the regular Skittles. I mean,
frankly, I've had a little pet theory that if I went over to the Skittles Corporation or whoever owns it and asked, "Hey, these guys look like they might be doing some trademark infringement. Do you want to go after them for anything for that?" Because Someone should set that up, because a lot of these candy companies probably don't want that bad press for themselves, and a lot of this shit is made to look exactly like other candy company stuff. And it's meant to cause confusion.
Well, I'm sure
Skittles
Nestle
wants to, you want to sponsor the podcast, we'd be happy to help you.
Skittles.
I've seen too many med records where people have shown up and like, oh, I brought my kid in because they got into my edible stash by accident and this happened, and I just was concerned as a concerned parent.
Oh God!
And their kid, they were held for multiple days at the hospital because they were awaiting CPS before they could discharge.
Oh my God!
So they had to. Yep. Child Protective Services got involved, and
they should. I don't think there's 100%. A world in which that is ever okay. I cannot understate that when I make a recommendation, when like a medical recommendation, there are bodies of literature, there are years of studies weighing that decision. I cannot recommend enough against the use of substances during pregnancy. I mean, our society is so litigious, thank you too, that OB-GYN, more than any other medical field, obstetrics and gynecology, are the single most sued specialty, because you're on the hook for 18 years. Little Timmy didn't get into Harvard. Well, it's their goddamn obstetrician's fault.
Wow, that one's definitely a little bit far afield from what I was thinking.
Sure.
But okay.
At the end of the day, that is something that 100% should not happen. You should not ingest edibles, smoke weed, use those products. CBD creams are probably fine, but again, there's no research to support that. There's nothing that says that. But THC 100 absolutely % no. I will stand by that. I will always stand by that until we have more information, until I can give you an actual recommendation.
Spinning off on what Alex was saying, the packaging. Do you remember that they outlawed like all the cigarettes to have, like the Joe Camel and Marlboro Man and all that? Well, I think the same thing should apply to marijuana, and I don't know why I believe this. Maybe it's based on what my understanding that marijuana does to your brain chemistry, but most young people's brains aren't completely fully formed until they're like 25 years old.
Correct.
So there was some argument here in this state about having marijuana not be allowed to be utilized till the age of 25 as part of the legislation, and that didn't pass that way. It's 21. But why people can go carry a gun, be forced to carry a gun and go die for their country, but can't drink alcohol or smoke marijuana, and in some places now smoke cigarettes too. Now, the Mankato, I believe, and the state of Minnesota has moved to the 21-year-old for tobacco as well.
I'm pretty sure Arizona has too.
So I don't understand the logic why we don't trust our youth so much that we're going to put it from 18 to 21 and have assigned all of our federal tax dollars, to have said that they're all of their road dollars are assigned to that, those laws being in place, and we can't figure out how to legalize this federally. All of those questions are still questions that I have, and I don't know that anybody can really answer them.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Your brain is still forming, still basically, you have what's called, oh my God, I can't think of the word. Sorry, you said something and it derailed my thought. Yeah, neuroplasticity.
There you go.
So your brain is still fully forming until the age of 25. People say old people can't change. That's kind of a little bit true. It's just harder. Because who you are as a person is basically evolving and changing until 25, because your brain is still evolving and changing. So there are arguments from the medical community, and they're surprisingly good arguments, that you shouldn't ingest alcohol or any type of neurologic affecting substance until the age of 25, when you're not going to have those long-term developmental changes or effects that we don't understand and can't measure. So that's the more extreme opinion and version of what Pat's saying. But it's true. You are changing your brain chemistry. It is a drug at the end of the day. And we don't really have a good way to measure or a good way to understand how those have long-term implications or effects.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good place to wrap up. Did anybody have any closing thoughts?
I hope the DEA doesn't dick us over and recommends rescheduling, because it'd be real nice.
We'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed.
Because that just happened, right? That was in the last month, you said?
Yeah, January 4th is when the DEA put out a statement saying that, hey, we've gotten this recommendation for the change, but we're going to review this, and they've started their independent review. So
if that happens, we should definitely be on top of it in terms of reporting it in the next episode or a future episode when we actually find out. So
I'll keep an eye out.
Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you doing this with me. This is maybe not as funny of an episode, more informative and more discussion and arguments. We got our lawyers to fight each other verbally, and I remember.
I feel like it was a fight with like padded gloves. Like
I was going to say like the toys you get in the pool, the noodles.
No,
that's how the fight was.
They entered the Thunderdome.
Like Pat built a little straw man for me, and then I got to knock it over. It's like T-ball.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, man, it's the Thunderdome. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. So Pat is now metaphorically dead. Alex, congratulations on winning the legal Thunderdome, the weed Thunderdome.
I'll haunt you forever, Alex.
I'll wear my crown and cry every night as I am haunted by Pat.
Thank you, Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. I hope you learned something. I hope it made you laugh at least once. Follow us on all social media. Follow us on all major podcast platforms. Listen and download the episodes. Show your support. And we will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Bye-bye.